Do you remember the last time you got lost in a game? And not just lost in terms of opening the map and thinking, where even am I? But much rather the kind of lost where, for a moment, you forget you are playing a game. Or, of course, the ever famous, just one more quest sentence at 3 in the morning. The kind of lost where you start playing in the afternoon and suddenly realize it's dark outside. The kind of lost where you see something interesting in the distance and decide to walk there, because why not? The kind of lost where you forget what your original objective even was that brought you here, because you found about 10 other things that caught your attention along the way. Do you remember the detours, the wrong turns, or the places you were never meant to find, yet somehow hold so dearly deep in your heart and soul? Do you? You don't? Well, worry not, me neither. And honestly, I don't like that. I realized that a while ago when I asked myself the same question and ended up sitting there thinking far longer than I expected or hoped I would. Because when I look back at some of my favorite gaming memories, I rarely remember the quest I was supposed to be doing. I don't remember how much gold I had. I don't remember what gear I was wearing. I don't even remember if I was making any meaningful progress at all. But what I do remember are the places. The forests I wandered through, the roads I took for no particular reason, the hidden corners of maps I wasn't supposed to find until much later, usually right before getting my ass handed to me by some over-leveled enemy that was absolutely not having it. But most of all, I remember how those places felt. It's strange, isn't it? Some of these worlds never even existed. Most of them, I would argue. They were nothing more than collections of pixels and textures trying to convince us they were real. And yet somehow, they feel more real in my memory than places I've actually been in real life too. I'm no neuroscientist, but I think there's some corner of the brain that doesn't really separate fictional memories from real ones in the same way. It just stores what we felt. And maybe that's the answer. Because those weren't just locations, they were moments. Moments of a life that was simpler. Moments where all I had to worry about was what might be waiting behind the next hill, inside the next cave, or at the end of a road disappearing into the distance. For a little while, those moments became a reality of their own. And maybe that's exactly why I miss getting lost in them. Just like I'd miss a place I used to visit years ago. But somewhere along the way, I think we stopped. The worlds are still there. The mountains, the forests, the cities, the hidden paths. They haven't gone anywhere. And yet somehow, we don't look at them the same way anymore. Did the games change? Did we change? I think the uncomfortable answer is both. As we all know, change doesn't happen overnight. There wasn't some secret meeting where game developers decided that exploration wasn't it anymore, and we'll all get stuck in a loop of grind and endless checklists, rushing over a map and then do the same with the next one. In fact, many of these changes that happened were actually meant to be improvements. Maps became easier to read thanks to markers and easy to navigate menus in them. Quest objectives became clearer and easier to track. Fast travel became more accessible and respecting the player's limited time. Mounts became faster, turned into flying, which ultimately lets you ignore a map and its terrain almost fully. Guides became available for absolutely everything. Hearing all that, it honestly sounds awfully convenient. The problem is that convenience always asks for something in return, and if you think about it, the price to pay was our curiosity. When was the last time you genuinely got lost in a game world and didn't know how to make it back on track? One example I always pick when it gets to the topic is Skyrim. As much as Todd Howard likes to tell things that maybe aren't completely true, he was right with some things. See that mountain? you can climb it. In my heavy Skyrim phases, I was walking through hills and valleys, not knowing where the next path, checkpoint, or enemy waited for me, and it was the absolute most amazing thing I have ever played back then. I think in my early teens, I exclusively played this game for thousands of hours, which would explain why I'm more of a shut-in, but anyhow, what I mean to say is, I got actually really lost in it, not knowing what was happening around me or where my path may leads. It was one of those games where the main quest turned into side quest and you really didn't care about it, because the world managed to capture you, bringing your mind in a state of believing what you saw and immersing deeply. You or the game didn't care about giving you the fastest leveling route, the most efficient way to get from town A to town B. You were in it for the love of the game, and nothing else. I always make the comparison, or scenario of, imagine if Skyrim was released today. And it shocks me every time, honestly. Thinking about the infinite map markers, the lists lingering on the side of your map whenever you enter a new zone waiting to be worked through, or boss markers telling you to be careful when entering this place and not simply getting your soul punched out of your body by a giant that decided that you are not welcome to pet his mammoth. Today, before we even enter a new game, we often already know where everything is. We know the strongest class, the best build, the fastest and most efficient route for leveling, what item drops where, and secrets that aren't actually secrets anymore. The optimal path from beginning to end. No mystery, no adventure, just plainly fulfilling what is expected of you. And I don't think that's entirely the fault of games. We changed too. We grew older and our free time became limited. We learned how games work and stopped asking ourselves what looks interesting, rather what gives the best rewards, because that's simply how society mended our mind to be as efficient as can be. We stopped looking at the world and started looking at the map, which basically is just a checklist of what we are supposed to do. And when we're done, well, we never come back. After thinking about all of this for a while, I started wondering if maybe exploration itself had simply become outdated. An era before guides, before wikis, before every answer was right at your fingertips. And honestly, I almost was convinced that that was the truth. Until I started playing Guild Wars 2. Now, before you sharpen your pitchfork and accuse me of turning this into a Guild Wars 2 advertisement, hear me out. The game isn't perfect. It has its flaws, like systems that could be optimized and players that rush from objective to objective, just like every other MMO. But it reminded me of something I had forgotten. Curiosity. I can't even count how many times I logged in with a clear objective in mind, only to completely abandon it 20 minutes later because I found something in a zone and got sidetracked. I'd be riding somewhere and spot a strange ruin in the distance. A cave entrance hidden between some rocks, or a mountain that looked climbable. And I'd just go there. Not because a quest told me to, not because a marker led the way, just to find out what might be there. And before I knew it, I was gone, following a trail I wasn't supposed to follow. If it even was a trail at all. Wilderness that somehow still felt intentional, still felt alive. Participating in events I never intended to do with people who were just as lost as I was, finding places that had no reason to be memorable, yet somehow became exactly that. Moments I now look back on and wonder if they were even real or just something I experienced inside a game. And the funny thing is that Guild Wars 2 has some of the fastest movement systems I've ever seen in an MMO. You can glide, you can teleport, you can ride mounts that make other games jealous, or even try to copy the original, and not succeed with that. On paper, all of that should make exploration worse. After all, wouldn't faster travel mean less time spent in the world itself? And yet somehow, it does the exact opposite. Because the game constantly gives you reasons to look around, to wander, to ask questions about places you encounter purely by chance. Simply because something caught your attention. Because you thought, hey, it could be really fun to fly down from that hill on my griffin. And that's when it finally clicked for me. The problem was never fast travel, or mounts, or even modern game design. At least, not entirely. The problem was that I had forgotten how to be curious. I had become so focused on getting somewhere that I stopped appreciating where I already was. Maybe that's what exploration always was. Not a mechanic or a feature, not even reaching a destination, just a willingness to wander, to follow a path simply because it feels interesting, to climb a mountain just so you can fly down from it again, or to walk into a cave just to watch the light of your torch reflect against the walls. The moment exploration becomes a task, it stops being exploration. It becomes navigation, which is a whole different thing. Exploration was never about finding something. It was about not knowing what you would find. And maybe that's all I really wanted to say. Either way, I'm very glad you took the time to be here and listen. Thank you very, very much for watching. And at this point, I also want to thank you all for the absolutely overwhelming feedback my last video got. You really touched my soul, letting me read all the comments of your tales and feedback of how the video reminded you of something so positive. And actually, I took a bunch of that into making this video. So please, feel free to do the same again and let me know about the places and games you felt were the most real to you, or maybe even reminded you of how to really explore. Thank you again. Take care, and as always, enjoy the journey.